What's up, y'all, and welcome back. My name is Jake Towell, and this is my art series where I share with you guys some art pieces throughout my art career. This one is a very hectic one. There's so many fantastic things going on, and if you couldn't tell already, everything's getting skewered through all the way throughout the composition. So the title of this piece is Skewer. Without further ado, let's get right into the sketch phase. So from what you can see from the sketch phase, and sorry that it's a little grayed out, it looks like I compressed the layers when I reduced the opacity of it, but you can still kind of see everything that's going on. But primarily the part that I want to pay most attention to is the red sketch versus the black sketch lines. You can really see the skewer, the sword, kind of passing through the whole composition, winding through like a maze. In the sketch phase, you can kind of see all the parts of that sword and how they're interacting with the line work. So speaking of line work, let's move right into the line work phase where we can talk a little bit more about the details. So now where that red line was, we have the actual line work and color of the blade, so that darkish purple blue, and everything looks a lot clearer, a lot cleaner. But overall, I would say this isn't one of my greatest pieces I've ever made. Definitely one I'm proud of, definitely one I think is really cool. I filled absolutely every single inch of this piece, and the concept itself is a really cool idea. I really love the idea of a skewer and so many things getting stabbed through and around and up and around, but I don't think it was very easily conveyed in this piece. It could have been conveyed a lot easier by reducing the amount of stuff in there, but again, there's so many really great details within this piece, and I'm really excited. So let's get right into the fully rendered piece. All right, we are on skewer here, and I'm just going to slowly pass through the skewer just one time, and we'll work from the handle all the way to the top of the sword here as I describe it, but I just wanted to show the general outline of what's going on here. So many great things, so many alien looking things, so many fleshy looking things. If you haven't seen Hook Chomp City, this was very inspired by that piece that I did before. But without further ado, let's get right into the details. So holding on to this blade is this blue hand. I used to draw a lot of these blue hands. It looks really well articulated, and it's winding up and around and through, out the screen, in the screen, and it's actually, this hand is deriving from the bottom of the sword. So the bottom of the sword hilt, that little circle is opening up, and that's where the hand's coming from. And then we kind of see within the actual, like, I don't even know what to call it, like the hilt of the handle of the sword here. We have this eyeball coming up through this monster over here, but we'll get right into that right now. A little bit of chip in the sword here shows some imperfections, but the first thing we come across is this weird, like, he's really cool. It's like a really angularly shaped dude here, and he's the first to get it on the skewer. A lot of cool things going on. It looks like one of his teeth are busting out the right side. We got his brain popping out the back, and then we got his eyeball, like mentioned before, going inside of himself, out through the bottom, through another homie, and up through the sword hilt, kind of looking at my logo there. A lot of cool stuff going on with that guy. You can see his tongue kind of coming out through the bottom of him as well, and we'll get to that right there. But moving to the right, it looks like he got his brains blown out, as they say. Another eyeball kind of coming out of this hole back here, but I really thought this part was really interesting and cool. So this is like a split open, kind of like a banana peel, and you can kind of see the heart stuck in the middle of the blade. You can see the back of this thing behind the blade, and then the other half is folded in front of the blade. And I think that just overall was done really well. And again, so many details, so you can't see the really fine things, the really unique things within this piece. So I always encourage y'all to look deep into my pieces, because there's always so much more than just what's shown up front. But that's the split in half piece. Looks like we got an eyeball coming in that way too, wrapping around down here as well. But really thought this was a cool piece. I added like a heart shape here in the bottom half, and then the heart in the middle, just to kind of draw that line from there to there, which is pretty cool. Also, it's got a mouth, also has a head. Lots of my art pieces back in the day, a lot of holes, a lot of teeth, a lot of blood, and honestly nothing really has changed from now. But ultimately the figures and the monsters I drew back then are very specific to that time period, whereas now I kind of have more literal beings like goblins and ghouls and ghosts and skulls, whereas this is just completely made up with my style. But to move forward on that, we have this little meatball cut in half looking thing. He's not so much skewered as he's just hanging on the corner of this turn, but he's got this giant spear kind of spearing through the heart, which is pretty cool. A ring holding them together, which is pretty cool. Moving down and around, we just got some arteries from that other one, cut in half, moving forward. And now we see that tongue from the top guy here, kind of wrapping around the blade and getting skewered by this really interesting looking, like, I don't even know how this thing got skewered, but he's hooked around two 90-degree angle hooks here. And it looks like he's almost trying to eat the sword. Maybe that's what he was trying to do. Maybe he was trying to eat the sword. But he's pretty cool. He's got these like really weird beak looking nose here. No eyes, nothing like that, but you can see his mouth kind of biting the turn there, which is really cool. Adding some more dimension to the teeth, which is something I don't really do too much even now. Looks like we got that corner popping out, which is pretty cool. That ring hooking around him, which is pretty cool. And then same as the bottom here, dripping blood down into the tip of the sword, but we ain't there yet. One interesting bit coming out of the bottom of this like weird cornered guy are these like alien, like, also if you remember Hook Chomp City, these were in there too. They were purple. These weird like grapevine. You can see this. There's a bigger one right here, and it has some substance in there as well. But coming out of these little grapevine holes are these colored line like balls, and they're kind of just everywhere, going in the vein here, popping out the vein there. Tons of really cool details kind of moving up and around this area. Another cool detail is like these chains, so it's hooking around with that colored line, and it looks like it's like a little blade popping through the tongue, and coming out that hole is another spear that's kind of just skewering, keeping the skewer theme alive through these tongue pieces and over here to this blade. So moving more to the right, we have a hole in the blade here, another obscure line monster dude, another eyeball popping out. Coming out of over here is another blue hand, and you can see it's chopped open, and since it was chopped open, it's shooting out this smoky green like smoke, I should say. But if we look at the details of it, you can see that this hand is actually extracting from this greenish grapevine thing that has some substance in it, therefore it's filling up on that substance smoke, and that smoke is coming up and around and engulfing some of these dudes and wrapping around to the bottom. Another really interesting guy here, but we haven't gotten there yet. We have the tongue hanging from that split open bit, hooked with the tongue of this guy right here, kind of with the chain there, which is pretty cool. But now moving to the bottom right, we have another blue hand skewering another thing, as you do, and this skewer is actually skewering through the teeth and mouth of this like bendy noodle looking guy, and I don't think he's really even skewered on this thing, but he's definitely a part of it due to the fact that this hand is stabbing him and keeping him in the skewer rotation, if you will. And you can see his tooth is like a capsule, and it's opening up and also producing that smoke, so it's also coming from the hand and the tooth from this guy. But it's really cool seeing a really long bladed golden tooth or something going through teeth, through his mouth, and pushing towards the skewer and kind of just leading the story on. Another thing coming out of that tooth is like another chain kind of wrapping around down here, and you can see the blade ending right there. But we're almost to the end. If you made it this far, give this video a like. At this point, the sword actually splits in two there right at the end, and we got this guy who only probably bit this thing or something. I don't know. He's getting engulfed by the colored line like spores or whatever the hell it is. Like, they look like plants almost. I don't even know what to call these things, but he's getting engulfed by that. But it looks like he was straw that broke the camel's back on this sword. The sword could not take any more. But anyways, moving into the last bit, the final victim of the sword, this guy's whole arteries, who knows, that's probably like his heart or something, just getting blown into the tip. And we got these blue bits from the hands also creating him, so that's interesting. A lot of these blue hand colors are creating something, bringing something more into the piece, which is pretty cool. And it's actually making him, which he's also hooked onto that. But overall, that is Skewer. If you want a print out of this piece, check the link in my bio to my store. Tons of really cool pieces there. If there's a part of this piece I didn't talk about that you saw that you really liked, leave it in the comments below. Leave a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.